You're traveling through another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop? The Disney Debate. However, this has nothing to do with the Twilight Zone today, because we're talking about a completely related and yet unrelated film. With that opening, happy Halloween, everyone! I'm Zenith Warrior Princess. Welcome to the Disney Debate, where Kat McBerry, Doug McBerry, and I discuss Disney films. And for the first time, we get to talk about the Twilight Zone. Before we get into any of the history and whatnot, how's it going, Kat?
Trick or treat, smell my feet, time to drop 200 feet. Well, actually 199 feet, but I digress. Happy Halloween, everyone! I'm doing great. It's almost time for my most favorite holiday of the year, and I'm really looking forward to talking about this film, something we've been putting off for a while now, and something that honestly turned out to be good, and it's based on a Disney ride. Who'da thunk it?
Wee! Disney ride! Wee! Roller coasters!
It's always a fun time watching those movies.
It is a roller coaster trying to figure out which one's good and which one's bad. With that being said, Doug McBerry.
Imagine, if you will, an announcer you can barely understand. He refers to him, but you're not quite sure what he said. He seems to be eating something. Perhaps he's a little drunk. It's remotely possible he was just saying something about the scary door. Hi, I'm doing okay. I've been wanting to, I love that narration. That I think Futurama has one of the funniest Twilight Zone parodies ever. So that's one of my favorite openings. But I'm doing okay.
It's good to hear you're doing okay. It is unfortunately a little bit before Halloween. We had some technical difficulties yet again. But now we're here, we're going to have some fun with this, and there's a lot to talk about, not only with the film, but the history and everything that has to do with the Tower of Terror 1997 Disney film. Before we get into how this was made, Disney has a huge history of films based on Disney rides, and we've covered quite a few of them. We've talked about The Muppets Haunted Mansion, we've talked about the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion. We briefly talked about the Haunted Mansion remake, which was only on our top 10 end-of-year lists. So we've talked about a few of them. We talked about Jungle Cruise, and we're going to get to some of the later ones, like Pirates of the Caribbean. But the thing is, this is the first ever film based on a Disney ride. And that's part of why this is special to me. And there's a lot of stuff going on with this. I think one of the things to start with is that I think this is a hidden gem. Much like Almost Angels, this is hidden from audiences. You might remember it if you're a kid growing up in the 90s. It aired on ABC. It was a made-for-TV movie. And I watched this a lot as a kid. But the thing that really gets me is that it's not that remembered by the general public. People don't talk about Tower of Terror, and every single Halloween I was just like, okay, can we do this? Well, we'll put it up to a vote. Alright, we're talking about Hocus Pocus, or Halloween Town, or a few of the other ones. Okay, but I want to talk about Tower of Terror this year, guys. Can we talk about Tower of Terror? Yes. So we're finally going to talk about it, and this is one of my favorite movies growing up, and I am happy to say that it does hold up. Personally, I think this is one of the best movies based on a Disney ride. And yes, Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, is really good. But when you actually take a look at what the Tower of Terror represents, it is all about the ride. It is all about the experience. And I can't really say that for all the other films based on Disney rides. Kat, would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. As someone who's seen a majority of the Disney films based on rides, yeah, a lot of them are not that good. Or at the very least, they seem to miss the whole point of what they were trying to tell, which is, base a story around the ride, but instead they try to make it its own thing, and it comes out really bad. Yeah, so I'm definitely glad to see a film that actually is about the Tower of Terror itself. In fact, we actually see the Tower of Terror in the film. They are actually outside of it. They are promoting what is basically the general story of the Tower of Terror and only elaborating on what's already been established. There's no, real original characters, per se. There's no, deep lore or anything. There's no, complicated storyline with love or family or some crap like that, or a curse.
Well, who's been screwing with this movie?
I mean, there is to a degree, I will say, that because this movie is kind of cliche, but at the same time, like I said, it still promotes the ride. And that's what these movies should be doing. You're supposed to promote the ride so people will want to go to the ride. But not, kind of use it as a stepping stool and then create a whole original thing that gets so big to the point where you have to include it in the original ride so people do not get disappointed when they go on said ride. Pirates of the Caribbean. So
and to an extent, Pirates of the Caribbean I can understand, but it's a great ride, but the movie's very different. It's still fantastic first movie. Jerry Bruckheimer, great person to do it, but they're kind of two completely different things. And then there's the sequels, which I like the first two sequels. They're not great, but they're decent enough. And then the next two sequels are bad.
Ugh, don't remind me. In my eyes, there's only one movie, and that's the first. I know the second has its points, but the fact that, the second one ends up tying into the third, which is really bad, kind of ruins the second, in my opinion, but that's just how I feel. Yeah, and the fact that the ride goes to such extremes to include all of the lore from said movie, it's it didn't need that to begin with. The ride was already great, but, whatever, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's there are worse things that you can say, but Pirates of the Caribbean doesn't feel like a ride-based movie. It feels like a magnum opus, and so it's different in the fact that the first two films, I can say without a doubt, I enjoy watching, but they feel like, okay, Lord of the Rings changed the film industry, let's change it again, Spider-Man, it was around this big time where we had all these big blockbusters. It doesn't feel the same. And I think a good example of this is that I picked up this movie on a 4-film collection. And I'm going to get into the collection in a bit. But the thing about it, on this collection, you have The Haunted Mansion, you have Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, you have Tower of Terror, and you have The Country Bears Jamboree, and the collection is titled Thrills and Chills. So you can see the caliber of ride-based movies, and I haven't seen Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, but Tower of Terror, then you have The Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy, which is kind of and then Country Bears. Doug?
Yes, we'll talk about the Thrills and Chills thing later. But yeah, aside from what you call it, the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion, I hadn't really had much experience with many of those titles featured on the DVD. I had seen the first Pirates movie on a bus, so I don't know if I can really count my impression of it. I know I wasn't really happy with it, not really feeling much like the ride and being its own thing. And I saw the second and third pirate movies in theaters, and I did like Dead Man's Chest a bit, mostly because I had gone on the original, When I first went on Pirates, I went in Disneyland, the California, theme park. So where it starts out is in a bayou. So where, when they spend a lot of time in there, it felt very familiar to me. And, I like that experience. Can't really say, the same about the third movie. Did not bother with the other two. I felt like, the third movie kind of wrapped it up, and I was kind of sick of Johnny Depp, actually, I was kind of sick of Orlando Bloom in the third movie, so I'm like, I don't really want to watch any more of this, and, the movie wasn't very good. And then, obviously, we saw, like, the Haunted Mansion movies. Obviously, we think that Muppets Haunted Mansion is the best of the bunch. Eddie Murphy one isn't terrible, but it definitely could have been better. And I think the one that came out a couple years ago wasn't bad, but it wasn't really anything to write home about.
It could have been way worse, and it could have been way better. It's like when you have Danny DeVito and Owen Wilson, it deserved to be better than that.
Yeah. I mean, and then, of course, the fact that you've got Jared Leto in it, which, honestly, he wasn't that bad in it. He actually did a good spooky job, but, of course, him with his reputation of box office poison and all.
Yeah, it's Morbin time, everybody. It's Morbin time, and they took the wrong lesson, and they decided to put him in Tron Ares, which we have to sit through eventually. I'm gonna have to pay money for that. But
anybody gonna see Tron Ares? No.
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 Yes.
Tron Legacy is good. Tron Legacy is great. Just
if you say so.
I like Tron Legacy.
To be fair, I watched it without the context of the original movie, but even then, I still didn't really enjoy it, so my opinion's kind of skewed in that regard, but we're gonna be watching all 3 movies soon, so stay tuned for our opinion on that, folks.
Yay! Is there any other ride-based movies that you've seen, Doug?
Oh yeah, and we forgot about Jungle Cruise, which... I like to say about that one is it's too much Metallica, not enough Weird Al. Because much like some of the other ride movies, it doesn't really do much with the actual ride. It has something at the beginning that's reminiscent of the actual ride, and then it just goes off and does its own thing, and for better or worse.
It feels like it wanted to be the new Pirates, and there's parts that I do really like about how they do the twists, but it's just not engaging to me. Again, I haven't seen some of the other Thrills and Chills collection rides, but as we know, the films based on Disney ride genre is not very well received. Aside from Pirates, a lot of these have been flops. A lot of these have been just kind of throwaway stuff. So this one has been majorly forgotten. But I don't think it's because this film is the first Disney film based on a ride. I think the first thing here is that this is based on the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, which is a theme park attraction at Walt Disney World. Now, you might be saying, okay, so why is the film called Tower of Terror? Well, when looking up any information on this, they don't really have a good reason why this is not really based on the Twilight Zone. And I can see why, personally. The film was written without any attachment to the Twilight Zone brand. Executive producer George Zaloom said, "What we've done is to create a storyline based on some action things that occur at the attraction." He went on to say, "We've taken the freefall elevator, as well as the Hollywood milieu, and have come up with a whole new scenario." Now, you might think, okay, well then how is this really the best ride-based movie out of all we've seen? Because it utilizes the ride as the set. This was filmed partially on studio, but mostly at the ride itself. And it would be shot in California rather than at Disney MGM Studios for logistics. But I really like that they actually use the ride and they use it as a backdrop. They go all the way through it. And so it has this feeling of it. But again, they took away the Twilight Zone brand. And I can see this as a win personally because as an executive, if I'm making a TV movie based on a ride, obviously the Tower of Terror is one of the first one you think of when you go to Disney World, aside from maybe Splash Mountain. But the Tower of Terror has this big name recognition, and it's attached to the Twilight Zone brand. And while the Twilight Zone was huge back in the day, it's not really big as time goes on. And so you have the twofold thing of you don't want to be attached to a brand that may not stand the test of time, and you don't want to be attached to a brand where you have to pay for the rights and Rod Serling. So that's what I was thinking of why they didn't do it, but also probably why it wasn't very well known or promoted in addition to being a TV film. It's something that they said, okay, we'll air it on the Wonderful World of ABC, and we'll put it there. Let's put some budget into it, but let's not put too much budget because getting Rod Serling would be a lot of money. What do you think, Kat?
Well, something to keep in mind, Rod Serling was dead long before this ride even came into existence. He died back in 1975, but they still wanted to use the whole concept of including their ride as part of the Twilight Zone lore. They wanted to do a whole opening with him, so what they did was they hired a sound-alike actor who actually worked with Rod Serling's wife. He got her personal permission, and he worked with her to perfect how his voice sounded, so that he sounded exactly like Rod Serling, and then they just dubbed his voice over the footage that they used, which was basically like a sort of deepfake copy of, a standard Twilight Zone episode. They just included all the original footage that they shot for, the tower itself, with the little girl and the people falling in the elevator and everything. So I think, at the same time, yeah, it still has the brand on it, so they would have to pay royalties just to use the brand Twilight Zone, in association with the show. So I can understand why they didn't want to have to do that and dole out royalties, especially for something they weren't putting all that much money into. I mean, it was a made-for-TV movie, so it's not like they were expecting box office numbers. But I mean, on the other hand, it's just also easier just to make up your own story, especially when you have said story already adapted and established. Like I said, you basically just slap the Twilight Zone label on it just to, give it some cred. But honestly, if you look at the whole history behind Tower of Terror, it went through like a number of revisions. Like it originally started, they were going to make it Mel Brooks themed, like, think Young Frankenstein. And then they were going to model it after Vincent Price and basically other like known names who were associated with the horror genre just to give it a bit of lore and mystique and stuff. But then they ultimately settled on Twilight Zone, which is understandable. And honestly, if you look at the videos of the interior, they go all out. Like, they actually insert little tidbits here and there that reference episodes of the Twilight Zone. So it's not like the tower itself has nothing to do with the show. There are reference there for, super ultra mega fans if you look hard enough. But the tower itself, though, for the most part, is kind of an original concept. It just happens to be a story that exists within the Twilight Zone lore.
Yeah, so it's like, you could say that this is a part of the Twilight Zone lore, but it's not, like, directly related. And the fact that you can pretty much remove any of the Twilight Zone brand and still have it make sense, I think is a testament to how good and well-designed the ride is. Now, I haven't been on the ride in years. It's been switched to, I think it's Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, over in California. I'm not sure if it's still available in Walt Disney World.
It is. Yeah, There are, at this moment, there are 4 Tower of Terrors. 3 of them are still in their original state. The one in Florida, the one in Paris, and I believe the one in China. I believe those 3 are still intact. It's the one in California that's been converted to the Guardians ride.
Okay. So, it's been a while since I've been on it, but I have been on it. I love the feel of the ride, and I think that's what Disney World and Disneyland do really well. Even the queue lines are just fun to be in. There's atmosphere. You go in and you have all this, like, really big, like, atmospheric build up to it. And I think it's shown best in the promotion that you showed me of Gilbert Gottfried walking in, and he's actually interacting with people in the ride. It's like, hey, I'm Gilbert Gottfried. I'm wearing a fuzzy pink bathrobe.
I'm Gilbert Godfrey, and I'm wearing a pussy pink bathrobe.
They would never allow that in today's censors.
And so they got Gilbert Gottfried to promote the ride, and it was amazing. I need to, Phil, if you can, take a little bit of this footage and just put it in there, because it's just peak. But it really helps sell the atmosphere of the ride, where you go in, there's an actual hotel desk, the queue in, they bring you in with a bellhop and everything, and then they bring you into the Twilight Zone portion. But it's just a backdrop for the, okay, 5 people in an elevator got struck by lightning, they fell, and they turn into ghosts. And it's like, okay, the movie is there to expand upon it, and it still uses this as a set, and that the fact that it still works is fantastic. Doug?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wish that when we had been on our anniversary at Disney World, that we had gone, but I know Kat was not very, enthused about going on it due to the drop. If I'd known that, there was a danger of it potentially being replaced, I might have made more of a push to go on it, at least myself. So as of that, I never got to go on it. But at least, thanks to the Gilbert Godfrey promotional video, I was able to get, that taste of how it actually is. And I mean, to go back on our, talk about the Twilight Zone, how, if you took away the narration by Rod Serling and everything, there are like little, Easter eggs scattered around throughout the, Tower of Terror Hotel, referencing, the Twilight Zone. And of course, the fact that, the Twilight Zone itself was an anthology series, so, you might know certain stories that took place on it, but they're all separate standalone episodes. Nothing, nothing serialized that you can, claim, oh, everything, if you're using this from it, it's from this and blah, blah, yada, yada. So like I said, yeah, it's one of those things where you can take the Twilight Zone out of the equation and it still works. And it does have those Easter eggs if the Twilight Zone well enough.
Kat, so I wanted to bring it to you last because I know you haven't been on the ride. Why don't you give us a little bit about your history with the ride?
Yeah, so my history with Tower of Terror is pretty different from most. So, as I mentioned before, I worked an internship during college at Disney World. Specifically, I worked at MGM Studios, or as it's now known as Hollywood Studios. So, I worked at just a regular restaurant. It's not there anymore, but it's like pretty close to where the tower is. So, during my lunch breaks, I had 2 choices. I could either eat in the back room, which was always stuffy and crowded and filled with people loudly talking, or I could go to the communal cafeteria, which was right outside the tower. So guess which one I usually chose. So most of my lunches for the 5 months I was there was spent sitting next to a window, eating my Subway sandwich while people screamed in horror as they dropped to 200 feet from the tower. So that was my daily lunch routine. That being said, though, I never went on the Tower of Terror, and I will never go on the Tower of Terror, mainly for the reason that I'm a huge chicken shit. I do not like drop rides whatsoever. I hate the sensation of falling. It's honestly one of my biggest childhood fears. Like, I had nightmares about it as a kid, and I just would not want to go through it. Like, here's something that I did remember recently is that when I first started working there, one of the things they did to welcome the new people was they got to go on the Aerosmith ride and the Tower of Terror for first, like through Easy Pass. Like, we even bypassed the people on Easy Pass. Like, so everybody had the chance to ride these, like, without waiting in line. Guess who was the only person who did not take advantage of that? So, yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I can't do rides like that. I'm never gonna do rides like that. Like, I respect the Tower of Terror for its atmosphere, for its design, like, its originality and everything. Like, I love everything about it, except for how it operates. It's not something that I just can never do. And and I've made peace with that. Like, I don't begrudge anyone who likes those sort of rides. Like, all the power to you, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can kind of get it. I have a fear of heights, but it's more when I can look over the edge of something. Like, the biggest thing for me is when you're at a mall and you look over the edge of the railing. I can't do that. I have to go on the inside. If there's a ride on the outside that has, like, like at Six Flags where you're on the outside and you can see it, I can't really do that. I've done it a couple of times. I don't like it. Now, I am jealous about the Rocket Roller Coaster getting an Easy Pass on that because I love that ride. That's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, it's great from what I heard.
Tower of Terror, yeah, it's really good, but when it comes to the Tower of Terror, I was just like, well, it's enclosed. Let's try it out. I love the atmosphere. I love it. It's very different from the Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion is about spooks and specters, but it's all about a party. And it's all meant to, like, bring you through, and it's cozy. I've rode the Haunted Mansion so many times that I don't really get scared by it, but I love the experience. Pirates of the Caribbean, I like because it has this atmosphere. You smell the water. You feel like you're there. Tower of Terror is very different for me because you go in, and it actually feels scary. It is a ride designed to scare you. You don't know when the drops are coming. You don't know where things are going to go because the way it's designed, you go up one side, you move forward, and then you go up to the actual tower where you drop. I like that. It's very unpredictable. It's scary in a fun way. But it is not for everyone. I will say this right now. If you don't like dropping, don't go in.
Well, fun fact, I learned that you're actually not free-falling when you go on the Tower of Terror. There's actually a cable that is pulling you down at an accelerated rate. So you're actually going faster than you would if you just, like, did free fall. But those cables are controlled, so that way they stop when they have to, they bring you back up when they have to, and then fully bring you back down. So it's all a controlled mechanism, so that way there's no danger of you accidentally dropping for real. So that's rather impressive, especially given, like, this ride was made over 20 years ago, and it's still functioning, and to this day has not yet had a single accident. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Now, let's talk about the network it aired on. There's a lot of history when it comes to the Tower of Terror. So, many of you know that ABC had a lot of big things. You had Boy Meets World, you had The Wonderful World of Disney, you had a lot of Disney things. It felt like the home for Disney Channel original movies before DCOMs were a thing. However, for the longest time, Disney did not have their own network, and they would air their stuff on different networks. And that's why you would be able to get, like, the other Shaggy Dog film that we haven't covered, which we found it's on YouTube, and another film that was, I think it's this Flubbers TV movies and stuff like that. You get a lot of TV movies that were aired on different networks. And in 1997, they finally settled on ABC, and that was the home of Disney. ABC Family was what Disney kind of became for their television network, and was great. I loved it. I loved watching, every Halloween. You watch the Boy Meets World special, Sabrina the Teenage Witch special. You get a lot of these Disney specials, and then you'd also get a lot of these people going to Disney World for free for the shows, and it was great. So this kind of became the home for it, and it all started with the Tower of Terror. This was the first one that was aired, so it's interesting to see how things started. We are eventually going to get to some of the DCOMs and the films that, were Disney Channel, side movies, TV movies, but we're not sure when. It's going to take a while. I know people have actually commented on older videos and said, oh, you didn't cover the Kirk Cameron version of the Shaggy Dog. I'm like, we couldn't find it.
I remember actually watching
we're going
that.
to eventually.
I remember watching that on Disney Channel actually as a kid. That's why I was so disappointed when we couldn't find it for our Shaggy Dog Marathon. But I look forward to watching that again in the future because that needs to be covered for certain.
The fact that it's available on YouTube of all things, that someone uploaded it, it's just like, man, we need preservation of film. And I know that back then, they didn't have a network. They were just putting things out. They didn't think to preserve any of this thing. There was no home video market at that time. But damn it, I want to see Aladdin become the Shaggy Dog,
Crossover.
So this was a big thing, and because this is a TV movie, because it was one of the first DCOMs, because of all these things, this film is not available on any streaming service or aired on any television channels at this time. And it's not because of copyright. It's because it's obscure. It's because it was one of the first ones that nobody remembers. It's a shame because it should be on Disney Plus. I remember as a kid, there's a scene, they would show Halloween promos for upcoming films in a block, and there's a scene in this film where a guy with a hatchet without a head just raises it up, and that was aired with Goosebumps and stuff like that in a promotional image, and I loved it because we had this stuff together. Kat, thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny. I think I remember that promo too. It's it's one of those things you don't remember until somebody mentions it or it appears in a YouTube clip or something. But yeah, I think I kind of remember that as well. But yeah, it is a real bummer that Tower of Terror isn't on Disney Plus or even streaming anywhere, because you think this would be a Halloween classic. You think they would show this all the time during Halloween season. I mean, heck, Disney is showing stuff on ABC Family that isn't even Halloween themed. It's just either randomly monster themed or some crap like that. But yeah, Tower of Terror has gotten no love. I think there's possibly two reasons for this. One, there might be a distribution rights, because while this is a Disney product, I feel like they might be fighting over it with maybe another studio or a second party that they worked with to make it. It's unconfirmed, unfortunately. The other theory I have is that as of this moment, there actually is a remake in the works for Tower of Terror that's being produced and starring Scarlett Johansson. It had been kind of limbo for a bit because, Scarlett Johansson had that whole falling out with Disney, and it took, reconciliation and major compensation on their part before she got back on the project and is now in the midst of working on it. Rumors are that Taika Waititi might direct it. There's a lot of vague rumors as to what actually is going on and who's going to be in this and when it's going to come out. But one thing I know Disney likes to do is that they pull the whole Disney Vault thing, where they take all the pre-existing stuff that's currently being sold and they hold it until the new thing comes out, and then they re-release it as an updated thing. So I'm hoping that, if and when the new movie materializes, we actually get a new promotion of the Tower of Terror. It's back on Disney Plus. They release a new DVD or whatever just to get it back in public consciousness, because from my memory, I believe they used to sell this movie in the Tower of Terror gift shop. Like, after you were on the ride and you went to the gift shop, you had the opportunity to buy the movie. So, I don't know if they still do that down there. It's been forever since I've been to this park, but that would be cool if they still did. But I would say if you have the chance, if you're able to find an original copy, like a DVD copy of Tower of Terror, or even the 4-piece copy that we got, the Thrills and Chills, please get it. Please get some sort of moniker of this movie, just so it still exists and stays in the public conscious.
Yeah, and on that note, let's talk about the Thrills and Chills collection. Now, as I said, it has 4 films. It has The Haunted Mansion, Tower of Terror, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and the Country Bears Jamboree. We're getting the band back together. And it makes sense because they're all based on rides. But when I first saw it, I'm like, wait a second, what? Wait, what are we doing here? Oh, okay.
What's scary about Mr. Toad's Wild Ride? I mean, I can see what's scary about Country Bears, but come on, these themes don't exactly align here.
One of these things is not like the other.
2 of these things are dead.
With that being said, I was happy to own the DVD because there's no other way to have it. I'm happy to have it in my collection. This is not the best release. I'm going to say it right now. I got it. I'm probably going to have to get a new version. I had 2 problems. The first one I talked about in the previous recording, but we had problems with it. So essentially what happened was, as soon as I took the shrink wrap off of it and opened it up, the thing that's supposed to keep the DVD closed broke. That's how cheap the plastic is. And I wasn't even trying to. It just came out. And so I'm like, okay. And then I tried to take the disc out, and the thing holding the discs in broke.
I've had that happen. I hate it when that happens. You have crappy made DVD cases when that happens.
It's a really bad DVD case, and it's just like, okay, so it has 4 DVDs, and it's not in like this nice sleeve where each one gets a slot. It's one of those 2-sided discs where you have to push them in, they fall out, they were loose when I got it. That's problem 1. Problem 2, I was rewatching the film for this review, and I had a problem with my DVD. It started skipping, and I'm like, okay. I pull it out, I wipe it off, there's like smudges on there, and there was like a piece of hair, I think, but like, I had to wipe it off. I don't know if it would, like, I don't know how it got on there because, like, I keep everything nice and clean.
What the hell?
No, like, I don't know what's going on. It could be maybe be from the cats, but it's just one of those things where, like, I was looking at it and there's smudges on this disc, and I'm going to have to take a look at them both under the light and maybe buy a new one. So if you can find this, buying it individually might be a better option. But, I mean, it was a deal where each one was $4, and I'm not buying the Country Bears Jamboree for anything more than $4. It does not deserve that.
Agreed. Totally agree.
So I'm going to take a look a little bit later and see if I can either find a new copy or something. But I was just, like, it was right in the best part of the film where Q was introduced, and it was just like, it skipped a second, and I fixed it, but, like, it was weird. Doug, any thoughts on the Thrills and Chills overall and stuff we talked about?
Yeah, we kind of had the same issue as you with the case, where, like, it didn't break, but, yeah, like, as soon as we opened it, like, the discs started, like, coming out of their slots and just, falling over. I don't think we had any damage to the discs, but yeah, I mean, honestly, like, it used to be when you got, like, DVDs and Blu-rays, the packaging was so much better. Now it's so cheap, especially with, like, the collection DVDs that are all in one case, and they're always, like, the holder thing keeps coming apart, or there's some sort of crack. I am all for, physical release. I think it's better than streaming. I have my reasons that but that's for another time. But the point is, it's sad that they've gone to focus so much more on streaming now that any physical release just does not get the quality assurance that it deserves. As far as the movies on the disc, obviously, like we said, I hadn't seen I'd only seen the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion. So I haven't seen Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and I've only seen the reviews for Country Bear Jamboree. Obviously, like we said, I think the theme works if you think of it from the theme park aspect of it. But otherwise, it's very loose with how they do thrills and chills.
Yeah. All right, so that's the history portion. We have a lot to talk about with this one, unfortunately, because there's just a lot going on with why this was forgotten and all the stuff behind the scenes, the ride itself, and the leading into the actual movie. And I have to say, I love this movie. It held up surprisingly well, even after a second watch recently. It is surprisingly good. The best way I found to describe Tower of Terror is that, while I like Halloween Town, it is definitely made for younger kids. It is made for kids who are still of the trick-or-treating age, and who are not jaded, who just want to have fun time with spooks and specters, but don't want to be scared. And then you have Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus is for the teenagers. It's like, okay, we're above Halloween. We're above the trick-or-treating right now, so we're gonna have fun with, slightly spooky, slightly scary, but more cynical stuff. And it was very 90s. I love Hocus Pocus, but it's not for everyone. And same thing is of the sequel. It's very much of the times, and it's meant for teenagers who maybe are into Halloween but aren't into the cheesiness of Halloween. This is kind of like a median where it's scary. It actually scared me a lot of times. It has heart. It has very good cinematography. There are times where it feels like it was, those ghost hunter shows that used to air on TV? There's several shots that look like they were taking inspiration from those, even though this came before, where you have these people going around the mansion, but it also has cheesiness and it has heart, and it just, to me, this is what I think anyone can enjoy. If you're a fan of Halloween of any age, this is for you, Kat.
I'm so startled. Ooh. No, honestly, yeah. Once you mentioned it, yeah, this movie kind of does play out like an episode of Ghost Hunters, except there's actually ghosts. So yeah, but yeah, I do feel in terms of the age demographic, this definitely appeals to a wider audience because it's not very kidsy. There's definitely some scary things in here. I feel would bother some kids watching it. I guess it would aim toward the teens because, then they do have a sort of teenager in it, and it's not extreme, but it's it's also fun, in a way where it's this isn't cheesy Halloween, this is cool Halloween. And then adults will like it because it has the more mature stuff in it, murder plots and whatnot. So, again, aside from the very little kids, I feel like this movie does appeal to many more. I do feel this movie appeals to a wider audience for certain.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Goosebumps, and less cheese than that, but also it may remind you of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Because DJ McHale, who wrote and directed this, also did Are You Afraid of the Dark? And
Submitted
is
for
very
the approval
telling.
of the Midnight Society.
For the approval of the Midnight Society, we have Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I don't know, do you know if he did the movie?
I don't know about the movie. I know he did definitely a good handful of episodes for certain. I see a couple that stand out that I kind of, forgot about. Was it Tales of the Midnight Society, Tale of Phantom Manor, and so on and so forth. He definitely has this moniker on it for certain, and you can actually see he brings that aesthetic over to Tower of Terror. I mean, when you think about it, if you rewatch the movie with that in mind, the movie itself could very well be a longer version of an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? It just has that aesthetic that works for it. Like, it's scary, it's not too scary, but it's, enjoyable for certain.
Yeah, if you grew up with Snick, we had Keenan and Kel's Halloween movie, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. And you had that, you had Are You Afraid of the Dark, you had Goosebumps. This fits right in, but it feels a little bit more mature because it has that aesthetic of spookiness, but it's also about, okay, let's talk about actual murder and stuff like that. So I think this has a great atmosphere. Cinematography, the lighting is so good. Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's very obviously a made-for-TV movie when you watch it. It has that, 90s production value. But it's definitely, it doesn't take away from the quality of the movie itself. I mean, it is distracting, when you see, their ad breaks and stuff like that. But, it's not entirely distracting. It does still stand alone on its own. And like you said, they shoot it in such a way, there's these interesting angles and very, nice shots, in general, that elevate it, above, most of the, campy, cheesy, made for TV movies of the day. It definitely has that vibe of Are You Afraid of the Dark? It could have been more that than Twilight Zone. But on the whole, still very enjoyable.
Yeah, I do want to give props to a couple things. There's one scene where they're going throughout the tower and looking around, and they hear Sally Shine, who's the child star who disappeared in the elevator, just start singing, "It's raining, it's pouring, the old man is snoring," and it greenish rain is falling, and you could just barely see her, and it's look, if I heard singing in a dark building that's covered in cobwebs and I see this, I'm getting out of there. That is creepy.
Fuck this
that
shit,
is
I'm
creepy
out.
as hell.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
That was a good and well done shot. And I think the Dutch angles, the lighting, and the way they are able to do it, very well done. I will agree with you about the TV bumpers, because there's a couple points where where we have them coming in and there's a guy with a noose, and there's this and there's this, and the nanny starts walking towards you, and then it cuts the commercial, and I'm just yeah, and the payoff is not as good as the setup, but even still, I think the way that they do it, they make these ghosts scary in a way that, as a kid, and even today, I find unsettling. They do things that, the headless person with a hatchet checking in, they manage to make it creepy in a way that is very enjoyable. Would you agree with that, Kat?
Oh yeah, for certain. It kind of reminded me of Beetlejuice a little bit, where the couple is trying to scare out that family from their home, except that A, it's not as grotesque, and B, they do it on a larger scale in that they're collaborating together, and they just collectively like know that just their presence alone is going to freak people out. I mean, heck, that one landlord just wouldn't enter the building whatsoever because of their presence. So it's just creepy enough to keep you unsettled, but it's not like full out gross.
Anything to add, Doug, before I move on to the actual story? I know we've been talking for nearly an hour, but there is a story here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like what you call it when one of the earlier times if they go in, and then you have like the headless body that starts trying to scare them away. I think definitely things like that were a nice little touch there that added to that creepy factor.
All right, so let's talk about the story, and then we'll talk about the sidecast. So, this film is very star-studded. I'm going to briefly talk about some of the people who are here and get into the story, but we have Steve Guttenberg, the Goot. We have Kirsten Dunst before her Spider-Man 2 debut. You even have Michael McShane as Q, who you might remember from Brotherly Love or other shows that he was in. He's been in a lot of stuff. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Whose line is it anyway? And
Richie
The
British
British version.
Richie
and Office
Rich,
Space.
like, A Bug's Life. So this film automatically has star power, more so than most made-for-TV movies, but I think this launched some careers. I mean, Steve Guttenberg had already been in a few things beforehand, but Kirsten Dunst and Michael McShane, you get a lot of really big names here, and this is something that drew me to the movie. If there's one thing I can say is that this ensemble cast makes the movie. This movie is so well acted, and while the plot is a bit cliche, I think it works because of these actors. And let's get into this plot. There's some problems that I have with it. There's problems I have with some of the characters, but overall, they don't really matter too much because I could see this movie every single Halloween and still enjoy it. So, we have journalist Buzzy Crocker. And yes, his last name is Crocker. He's going after fairy godparents.
Fairy godparents!
Which is fitting because essentially his character is a supermarket tabloid writer. He used to be a really well-known journalist at the Los Angeles Banner, but then he accidentally published a fake news story. He saw a video that turned out to be a fake, and he got fired for it. So now he's doing tabloid rags, and he drags his niece, who is played by Kirsten Dunst, into, posing for pictures, turning her into a ghost or an alien and other sort of things. So basically, he kind of lost his passion for journalism. He wants his next big break, but no one will hire him. And so he's lost his idea of what is real. He knows all his stories are bogus, but he just wants to have a job and put a roof, put food on the table, roof over his head, stuff like that. However, an elderly woman gets let into his apartment named Abigail Gregory, and she explains that on Halloween in 1939, she witnessed the bizarre incident in the Hollywood Tower Hotel where the 5 guests plunged to their death. Except not really. She knows the truth. She says that the nanny of Sally Shine, Emmeline Partridge, her Irish nanny, was the one who was a witch and cursed all of them. However, instead of sending her to an eternity of pain in the afterlife, in hell, which they don't say hell, but you can tell. They say the underworld. Instead of that, because they don't have items from all the guests, only Sally, the spell only half worked. So they're ghosts in the hotel. They have to get to the Tip Top Club because every year at the same time, They can hear the party that they were trying to get to, and they can't get to it. So it's a story about, okay, let's help these ghosts get back and, finish their unfinished business. And there's a lot of spooks and scares along the way, and some twists. Before we get into some of the problems, Doug, what do you think of this story?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward there. I mean, obviously, when you watch it, there's a little more to it. But yeah, on the whole, the story, I got no notes. Pretty solid. Little, cliche at times. Definitely, with Steve Guttenberg's character. But aside from that, solid story. No notes.
And, Kat, what do you think?
Yeah, honestly, it's a pretty good story since it's basically what happens on the movie you see before the ride. It's 5 people try to go up the tower to a party, get struck by lightning, they disappear, and when you see them, they're ghosts just wandering the halls because they're basically stuck there. I mean, that's the story. The only thing they add in is extra characters that are investigating the details of said story and then adding a surprise twist to the end of it. So, in that regards, I think they do a really good job in terms of telling what the story's about and keeping it fairly simple, to keep your attention, but also on the edge of your seat to find out the details.
Yeah, I think it's a cliche in certain aspects. I'll save some of the character stuff for when we talk about the actors, but I think what really works about it is the presentation. We see the party, we see the start, we see this build-up. It has a very hocus-pocus intro where there's candles and there's spells and there's all this stuff, and it flashes forward to where we are now. And I think it does a good job of presenting something that's simple in a very interesting light to keep you on the edge of your seat. However, there is one problem I have with the twist, and that's I saw that Abigail was the villain coming from a mile away. And after rewatching this film, for this is the second time I've watched this recently, they do a good job of having Abigail act a little bit unhinged, but nice. However, when she first enters the apartment, she goes pretty crazy on him. She's sitting in his apartment. I mean, she was let in by I'm guessing it was the landlord of the apartment, who is this elderly gentleman. He was let in. Okay, that's fine. But she's sitting there, and then she starts going off about, I've lived with this for 60 years, and at that point I would have called the police, personally. That's just me, but she was getting off a little bit crazed vibes. And there were points where she knew a little bit too much. She was a little bit too eager to get the book and get some of these items. And I'm like, okay, so you want to help her? But, okay, I get that you're a witness to this, but one thing you don't explain is how you know all this stuff. Oh, I researched the stuff on the book. Okay, but you don't know these people. Why are you doing this? There was always this suspicion that she was evil in the back of my mind. However, the true twist I really liked, where I had forgotten that Abigail was Sally Shine's sister, and she was jealous because Sally got all the attention. She couldn't sing or act or do anything, and she's been in essentially a mental asylum for 60 years because she realized that in death, Sally became far more popular than in life, and so it affected her. Now, there's stuff that I have problems with in that regard about mental health, but speaking about the twist that she was Sally's sister, I didn't call that. I think that's a good twist. What do you think, Kat?
Oh yeah, that part I didn't see coming. I figured once it was revealed that she was the girl watching them, I mean, based on her mannerism at the beginning, you would think, oh, she must have been, either a so-called friend of Sally's or, knew or worked in the hotel, and so she watched her from afar and was always jealous or something. But yeah, I didn't expect her to actually be her sister. And that kind of adds a sinister twist to all this, because you realize it's her own sister that's the reason behind why Sally and all of them disappeared. And it gets so much worse as the movie goes on, because you find out that those sinister motives, they never died. In fact, they festered and got worse. And when you get to the climax, like, it just becomes several levels of fucked up.
Yeah. And we're gonna get into that in a second. But Doug, what do you think of these two twists?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Abigail shows her hand a little too early on. It's like, I don't know if I got it quite as early as you did, but the fact that she's letting on like, oh, she did this spell, and this spell requires this thing, and it's like, how do you know that? How do you know all this?
Did you read the script?
They did
oh,
that?
What's that down the elevator shaft?
Yeah. And then it's like,
how do you know about the parts you weren't there for?
Yeah. And she's, the fact that, they reveal that she's actually been in an institution the whole time made me have like a darker thought about, if that actually was Abigail, and like maybe this person might have, killed her and assumed her identity or something such as that. I mean, obviously they can't go too dark with it being, aimed for families. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, it does get worse as the movie goes on. And the fact that she actually has like these drawings hidden of, her basically trying to kill her own sister. And the fact that, the asylum just lets her out on her own, after all this time, after she really has not exactly been cured. So yeah, it's a little sus.
Yeah, it's kind of like the original Halloween, where the asylum is kind of bad, and it's like this was true of the 1980s. The 90s was still kind of bad, where these asylums did not understand mental health. And so they would blame the doctors for not taking care of their patients, even though the patients weren't actually being cured. And it's just like, there's a lot of problems. You can see it in Halloween. You can see it here.
You can see it in Arkham Asylum in the DC universe.
Oh my god. The biggest problem I have is this guy doesn't know the person he's letting is like, oh, you're a friend, I'm gonna let you go see. He doesn't even know the birthday of his client. He doesn't know that their birthday is on Halloween. So that tells you something immediately. But he lets her in to her apartment when she's not there. After 60 years, let her out. He has a pager, so he goes and walks away. But also it tells confidential information about how she's Sally's sister. And I'm like, this is the worst mental institution. And I know there's a lot of other examples, like Halloween or Arkham Asylum, but HIPAA would have a field day with this place, because you can't do that these days, because there's something called patient-doctor confidentiality, and unless you're a family member, you're not allowed to do things. And I don't know if they had started this in 97, but dear God, this is a very big indictment of the mental health institution. And I also have a problem with, like, I get it. We've used mental health as villain motivation throughout many different films, but I think what works in Halloween for Michael Myers is that, like, no, it wasn't anything that was mentally wrong. It's just there's something evil about him. Instead, they're like, well, I was always jealous of my sister, and I'm gonna make these messed up drawings, and I should be locked up and crazy. And part of that doesn't sit right with me, because I have mental health issues myself, and I feel like there's too much gets blamed on mental health itself. I think the mental health institution was to blame here, but they didn't frame it properly. Do you want to weigh in on this, Kat?
Honestly, I hate to say it, mental institutions are still kind of like that. Like, if you want to commit someone, they are focused more on just, getting the money to treat you than actually treating you. Like, I've heard horror stories where, like, people were committed, like, as kids because they acted out or whatever, and then, they would be treated, like, as animals. They would be strapped to their bed. They would be forced to take medication. And if they so much as, like, voice their opinions or their emotions or anything like that, the facility would just use it as an excuse to keep them longer. It's only until they, pretend not to act crazy that they were actually let out of the asylum, because then they had no justification for keeping them there. So that unfortunately still happens in a lot of places today. So I wouldn't say it's that far outside the realm of possibility, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of violations in that unfortunately are not properly enforced. It is still a big stigma, though, because this person, like, was committed at the age of 10. And we don't exactly know why she was committed, because we can only assume one of two things. Either that, A, she admitted to what she did to her parents, who were so horrified that they committed her and then just left her there. Or she started acting weird, and they assume it was out of grief, so they committed her, but then she started showing worse signs, so they just left her there. Like, either way, it's a horrible situation. And the fact that she was there so long, like, I can only assume that with time, she learned to just mask her emotions and keep all the crazy within that one trunk, and she just let her emotions fester because she knew if she showed them to the doctors, it would just make things worse for her. Because at least if she pretended to be sane, they allowed her privileges, like, going outside. So that's my opinion of, like, what happened with Abigail. But even then, yeah, the facility, the fact that they just let some rando into her room just because she said she knew her, it's like, dude, come on. Like, a little security at the very least.
And, I mean, that could explain how she got as bad as she got, because there are problems that I know you have with the finale, but I think it really comes down to she was not given proper therapy. She was not given proper counseling. She had to bottle it up inside, mask it, hide it, and they didn't care about her. So she wanted to take it out again, and she found someone who she thought believed in the occult, but even then, she convinced him to go into the hotel, and under the pretext of saving the ghosts, wanted to finish the spell, because she's like, I just want this out of my life. And to an extent, I think this can be understood. When you're a kid, you're very impulsive. I don't know how she got the witchy powers or the book. They never explain this. But as a kid, you're impulsive. If you have this stuff, you're like, well, they neglected me. They forgot my birthday. I've had days where I'm just like, I just want all of you to go away. You don't mean it. And because it was left to fester for 60 years with poor therapy, she was just like, I'm going to finish the job. It gets worse. It was only coming into contact with her sister and seeing what she had done that brought her out of it. Is there problems? Yes, because the whole reveal is that the party that they're trying to get to was a surprise party for her sister. The idea is that, this is kind of a cliche in media, and I've seen it so often, where there's a surprise party that people are putting on for people. The person thinks that nobody remembered their birthday, nobody cared about them, and at the end of the episode, at the end of the movie, oh yeah, we cared about you as a surprise party. I hate surprise parties. I think it's a stupid idea. And I've seen this a lot, so this is part of the thing that I don't like, but I don't think it's bad because it explains her resentment and anger. Doug, what do you think?
Sorry, I know, surprise parties, sometimes they work, but for the most part, it seems like they cause more problems, and, make the person not happy that they're supposed to. So yeah, sometimes it's probably better that you go and not tell them. I mean, it does certainly make for a good twist, but again, you're kind of angry that basically this lack of foresight got 5 people killed. So yeah, it's like good twist, but nah.
Yeah. What do you think, Kat? I know you have a lot to say, so.
Yeah. Like I get what we just talked about, the state of her mental health and the state of the asylum she was condemned to. Both didn't mix, both just caused further problems and everything. So I can understand the part those played in this. That being said, though, I still don't think that Abigail should have been forgiven as easily as she was, because what she did was, like, honestly downright evil. Like, at just 10 years old, she was jealous and resentful enough of her sister to the point she wanted her not only dead, but condemned to hell. And she went through God knows what in order to learn witchcraft and to get a hold of a spell book just to condemn her sister to hell. And not just her sister, but 4 other people that were accompanying her. Like, I understand she might have resented the nanny too, again, for possibly favoring her over the other sister, but the other 3 people did nothing wrong to her. Like, as far as we knew, they had no real connection with Sally before this incident happened. So she was willing to condemn and murder 4 innocent people just to get back at her sister. And then when that didn't work, she hatched this very long, thought out plot where she was basically going to get a patsy to find the ingredients she needed to complete the spell so she could not only once and for all condemn her sister to hell, but those other people as well. Like, that to me is just insanely messed up. Like, and it's weird because when Sally realizes who her sister was and what she'd done, she doesn't seem to react negatively at all. It's like, in her mind, her sister was always this wonderful person that she hung out with, who she bought the special bracelet for. She had no idea that she had these ill intentions. So it just feels so insanely messed up that, like, it took that reveal for her to realize what she did was, like, so horrible. Like, even after she did the spell and everything, even when she was on the elevator, she was willing to go down with him if it meant getting rid of her sister. It just... and then at the end where, her sister forgives her and then they show up as little girls and then they send to heaven, I'm like, no, why is she going to heaven? She did this insanely evil thing. If anything, she should be going down. Yeah, there's a reason,
also...
there's a reason her parents didn't show up at the end. Like, they showed up to greet Sally. They didn't greet Abigail. They knew what Abigail did. They wanted nothing to do with Abigail. So, yeah, in that instance, that what she did was messed up.
Did she also get a heart attack in that elevator? Because, like, she died as well. Like, I know she was an older woman, but she's just, like, after the spell was negated, she disappears, and then she shows up as a little girl. It's kind of weird. I'm
gonna assume she died the same way the other 4 did, and that she more or less disappeared from that plane of existence and became a ghost, as opposed to actually dying. Because that's kind of what happens in the Twilight Zone version of the story, is that they don't die, they just disappear, and now they're stuck in this weird limbo. So, like, they're, like, the 5th dimension. That's essentially what they all are in. Like, the 5th dimension exists alongside our dimension, but it's transparent, so they can't fully interact with our world.
Alrighty, so that's a story. I have problems with it. I still think it's a fun ride. And if you think about it, this is a nice, scary popcorn horror ride. Like, don't think about it too hard. It's sold by these actors and these characters, but it's still enjoyable. And I think even with these problems, it's something that I still want to watch every single year at Halloween, now that I have a copy, because it has this atmosphere. It has this tone to it that is just infectious. Kat, what do you think?
No, for certain. I think it actually does a really good job with the material it's handed. Like, it has a nice original, simple original story to begin with, but the fact that they elaborate upon it in such a unique way, like actually make it like a murder mystery, that just adds like so much more like depth and flavor to it. So it definitely keeps you engaged. And it's interesting watching them actually give character to the people that were in the elevator, like, because you don't really know what their story is. Just that one's a bellhop, the other's like a rich family, and so on and so forth. But in this one, they give them like, you know, names and personal goals and stuff. Like you have Sally Shine, the child actress, who's basically Shirley Temple, which is kind of funny because the actress herself, she actually does a singing voice for Darla Dimple in Cats Don't Dance, and Darla Dimple, of course, was based on Shirley Temple, so that, you know, adds to it. The one rich gentleman, Gilbert, you know, he has his goal of wanting to propose to his fiance, which he waited 60 years to do, apparently. Fun fact, he actually voices Alfred in like a number of straight-to-DVD Batman films, so he kind of fits the part in that regard. You have Claire Poulet, or Carolyn Croissant, whatever you want to call her, the singer. You know, her goal is to make her big debut, which makes her story all the more tragic because she never got that. But, you know, she's this beautiful woman, and, you know, you want to see good things for her and stuff. You want to see her fiancé propose to her, but that doesn't exactly happen. You have the bellhop, Dewey, who was supposed to inherit the hotel and run it himself, and that never happened. Fun fact, the guy who plays him, John Franklin, he actually played It on the Addams Family movies, which you can kind of tell based on his height. Yeah. Yeah, believe it or not, I can look him in the eye. That's how short he is.
There's a lot of, like, big name people here, and it's like, just like Abigail it is played by Amzie Ellen Strickland, who was on... She's been acting for a long time. She started in radio programs, but then, you know, the Andy Griffith Show, she was in the Twilight Zone, like Leave It to Beaver. She's been in so many things. Knight Rider, like... And she died in 2006, but 87 is... Not too shabby. I gotta imagine, like, she's done so much, so I think she did a great job.
Oh, for certain. Like, for someone who started in radio and has been just doing bit parts on, like, TV and stuff, she conveyed the role of, like, the insane innocent old woman, like, pretty well. Because even with her cackle, when you realize that it's her behind all this, is kind of unsettling. Because it's like, oh no, it's the kind old lady did it? Oh, didn't see that coming.
Yeah, Doug, what do you think of Amzie Strickland?
Yeah, I thought she had that good, you know, kindly old lady, so that you are kind of distracted and not immediately, you know, thinking of her as the villain, you know, way about her. So, you know, you want to feel for her. And then, yeah, it's like she gets into the role of, you know, the villainess, and she does get a little creepy there. So, yeah, absolutely. And as for all the other characters, the ghosts, definitely, you know, I'm very invested in what all of them have to do, especially the Carolyn, you know, who actually seems to almost have like her own relationship with Buzzy. You know, definitely, you know, the most interesting of the group, given that, you know, she actually pretends to be the actress that he's hired, and so, you know, you don't think at first that she's one of the ghosts. So it is an interesting twist. You kind of see it coming because she's never seen outside of the hotel. But yeah, like I said, when it comes, it's like, you're like, yeah, okay.
I mean, you first see her, like, she emerges in a big heavenly glow. It's like, gee, I wonder if she's a ghost.
Like, I really like that they expanded upon this cast. I think the least is Gilbert London. Alistair Duncan does a great job. It's just they don't give a lot to his character. He's a smarmy guy. He wants to propose, but it took a second watching to really get that across. I think they, he does great in the ghost parts, but like there's parts where I'm just like, I could take or leave him. But the fact that he's annoyed with everyone, I like. I really like Dewey Todd. John Franklin does a great job as the bellhop. He's like, you can buy him having, confidence issues, but you can also like see what he's doing with the hotel. He does a great job of both sides of this character. I really loved Carolyn Crossan, played by Melora Hardin, because she has the most screen time, but she does a really good job just embodying both of these roles. She tricked me at first because I didn't think she was the ghost, but then she has this accent that she slips into, and it's like, it's subtle, but you can actually see it. Unfortunately, I can't find any information on Lindsay Ridgway, who played Sally Shine. Granted, it's a child actress, so they probably just didn't have any information on them, but I think she does a great job in the role. I think she really brings this energy and creepiness, and she doesn't feel forced. I've seen a lot of child actresses and actors, very, very good, but you said she played the voice for Cats Don't Dance?
Yeah,
for,
in the movie...
Darla Dimple?
Well, she does the singing voice. The song she does, Big and Loud, both the main song and the reprise, that's her singing it. Like I said, it's really appropriate because, again, Darla Dimple, the villain, she's supposed to be based on Shirley Temple, but an evil version of Shirley Temple. Whereas in this case, she's playing the inverse, where in this case, she's the innocent Darla Dimple who falls victim to another villain. So,
although
it's
she's
like,
supposed
it's like poetry,
to be
they
creepy,
rhyme.
Darla Dimple. It's fitting that she's supposed to be creepy here. So I say this supporting cast really makes the film. I love these characters. I love these actors. Seeing them interact together makes a large part of the film for me, and I think that's really great. Wendy Worthington as Emmeline Partridge, she doesn't get as much as I'd like, and I think one of my main problems is that they make the Irish nanny into the villain, and it's not the film's fault, it's Abigail's fault. Which is a little bit racist, not gonna lie. But, I mean, I guess it was an easy target to be, like, the nanny, because I don't know if you guys know about, like, Selena, where, like, her manager was... those closest to stars tend to try to take advantage of them. So that could be the situation, but Emmeline Partridge is made out to be this huffy, bitter old witch of a nanny, and she ends up being the Swedish Irish person. I love her, but you don't see a lot of her, Kat.
Yeah, it is a shame. Like, she definitely has that menacing look down, or as I should say, resting bitch face down for certain. But the fact that she could switch it so easily and she turns into the kind, doting nanny, and it makes you believe that, oh yeah, this woman was definitely framed for what Abigail said. She's not evil. She is definitely, like, devoted to the little girl. Like, I mean, I feel like part of what kept a lot of them down was because of their unfinished business. And for the nanny, her unfinished business was getting Sally up to the party. She couldn't pass on until that happened. And you see, after Sally is happily reunited, the nanny just smiles and she goes off to heaven. So the fact that, she was sacrificing, like, her afterlife to keep the little girl safe and to make sure she wasn't alone, that's really touching. So... Yeah, they did a really good job with her character, like, making her first menacing and the obvious villain to making her one of the more sympathetic characters.
I will say, though, that some of the effect work surrounding her are some of the worst TV effects. Like, when she goes through the mirror, it's a decent effect for the time, but, like, some of her effects aren't the best. They're not bad. I still can't really see the seams, but they do look a little bit fake. Doug, do you have anything to weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's not much to say on her. She's mainly the nanny, and then she gets made into the scapegoat for everything, which Abigail's story is one of those things that doesn't quite add up as to, how she places the spell while she's in the elevator herself. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. She does a good job acting wise. Definitely once, it's revealed that no, actually she's not the villain. She was actually, very close with Sally, and, would do anything for her. I don't know how much to say. Yeah, obviously, like you said, when they have the focus on her and those effects, that's where the production quality is definitely at its lowest. But again, it's a product of its time.
Oh, quick note, Zen. It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned Boy Meets World, because Lindsay Ridgway, who plays Sally Shine, she played the little sister in it. Morgan.
Really?
Morgan Matthews.
Oh.
Yeah, the bratty little sister that, like many extra siblings of the TV day, would descend the stairway and never come down.
Now I can see it. Oh my god! She did a great job in Boy Meets World. So I'll say that much. There's no article on Wikipedia, so Wikipedia failed me.
That's why you gotta do research.
We do much research. So let's talk another character that's not really important. Jill Perry. She's there to basically be the voice of reason, but she's good. She doesn't have a big role. I just figured I'd kind of bring her up. She is played by Nia Peoples, who has been in Pretty Little Liars. The Young and the Restless, Walker, Texas Ranger, The Fosters. Trying to think of anything else. Let's see here. She's been film-wise.
Ooh, she was in Blues Brothers 2000. Woo!
Okay. She was in the 2005 Sub-Zero movie.
Clearly very good film choices, as we say.
Soul Train. She's done a lot of TV. She's done a lot of little things. But I'm guessing more bit parts from what I'm seeing here, specific episodes, TV, movies, stuff like that. So I think she does a good job. I don't think there's much to comment on though, because she's barely in the film. What do you think, Kat?
She's there mostly to play the straight man to all this, because you could tell she is tired of Buzzy's shit, how he's always showing up at her door with this outrageous story he claims to be true, and is basically just preying upon, her past affections for him in the hopes that he'll get his big break again. I can understand her exacerbation of having to deal with him, because it's yeah, it was tragic that he unfortunately got his career ruined because he didn't properly check his sources. But at the same time, the fact that he hounds her all the time and is just trying scraping by with the bare minimum just to get her to get him famous again, I could see how that would be annoying and why she's grumpy for most of the film. And of course, once she actually gets involved with the plot at the end, then you see that she's starting to come around to all the idea of the supernatural and everything and how magic works and all that. It's good, like you said, she doesn't really get that much to do because she is kind of essentially the love interest, or at least one of the love interests, but she does get the plot going at the very least by discovering the twist about Abigail, so at least she plays an important part of the story. Like you said, she's supposed to be the love interest, so there's not much else she's expected to do. But again, she's actually given more to do by terms of, again, finding out the twist that is coming with Abigail, and also creating, the third act conflict of, oh well, Buzzy's not going to help the ghost now because he wants to get his career back, and now he has to make the ultimate choice. Does he choose his career, or does he choose the people counting on him? So that typical cliche. But,
it is a bit cliched, but it's a bit cliched, but I think it plays out well because of how it's acted.
One fun tidbit I did want to add is that when I was looking on comments of certain videos, somebody mentioned that they actually had John Franklin, who played Dewey, as their history teacher, because he was a history teacher before he went into acting. So she was like saying how excited she was to like actually talk to him about being on the film and everything, which I think is cute.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and actually, from what I heard, believe it or not, that wasn't the only time that Dewey emerges within a story. Because as we mentioned before, the director DJ McHale, he actually goes on to write a book series called Pendragon, and Dewey Todd actually appears in it. He as a character. And after going through the series of adventures, he tells them that he's off to work at his father's hotel. So, technically speaking, the Pendragon book series is a prequel to Tower of Terror in a weird, offset way.
Alright, we just got 3 characters left to talk about. Do you have anything to add to this, Doug, before we move on?
In terms of Jill Perry, unfortunately she's very underutilized, but like you said, she does get the plot going. She does kind of become that Lois Lane figure, halfway into the movie. I will say it's it was getting annoying with Steve Guttenberg's character constantly coming to her trying to pitch these, very disappointing stories, and then, trying to use it as a basis to get into, essentially get into her pants, or, get some, potential of getting back his job there, to the point where you're wanting her to call the police. And it is refreshing that eventually she does tell him off and said, don't come back here. Yeah, for that part, I did like her. I don't know. I didn't really have much on Dewey. It is interesting, that he has this sort of history with the production. But yeah, I don't really know if I can add anything to that.
All right, moving on, let's talk about Michael McShane, who plays Q. I recognize him immediately from Richie Rich and Brotherly Love. He always plays these parts. It's kind of a character that he plays. I think it's great. I love seeing him as it, but it's nothing new. Doug?
Oh yeah, when I saw him, I'm like, oh my god, because I remember watching him on the old British Whose Line Is It Anyway episodes. So I remember he's very big into improv. I remember him best from Office Space as the hypnotherapist who basically dies before he can get Peter, to snap back. So. He comes up in all these weird places. Definitely this is no different. It is probably the most hefty role I think I've seen him in. Because he's actually like a legit supporting character there, and he's this mechanic. He's got skills, but he won't go into the hotel. He's just too afraid. But eventually he does conquer his fear. That's gonna happen, and he is, he's waiting on, the statute of limitations or whatever to, drop so that he can finally be the owner of the hotel. I guess he'd probably have it torn down and turned into something else, but, it does have his part to play in everything that happens with it. So, definitely a great job by Michael McShane.
Yeah. I think what I like about his story is that, he seems like your typical, oh man, I'm in it for the money, but he really cares about his family. And while he doesn't hire any cleaners, the place is in disarray. He does, pay for maintenance. Stuff is still running. And he just is so afraid to go in there because of ghosts. And he's not a great mechanic. He doesn't have a lot of self-confidence. but when he busts in and he does his good stuff and he owns the hotel, like, it's a great character arc. Kat?
He doesn't look like the guy from James Bond. What the hell? Sorry, I've been dying to make that joke, because it's like, why would you call this character Q? And I guess because, he's a mechanic, so he, like, fixes things and builds things and stuff, but I'm like, why would you name him after the same guy from James Bond? That's just weird. But whatever. No, I thought he was a pretty good character in terms of his, arc and everything. He has to learn to overcome his fear and whatnot. I do think it's kind of a weird clause, though, he had to follow, because it's like, he wants to inherit the hotel, but it'll only happen under the circumstance that the ghosts suddenly stop haunting the place, which is something he never fully verified because he never went in. So it's like, what was his plan exactly for the hotel? Was he just waiting for somebody to go in and, say that it was no longer haunted? It's just, I don't know, that part was always kind of weird to me. It's like, I'm glad he ultimately got the hotel in the end, because it's like, okay, well, I guess he definitively proved by going in that the ghosts aren't haunting it anymore, but it's like, how do you explain that to people? Like, how do you,
actually, the clause states that they have to figure out what happened to Dewey. They have to figure out what happened to his grandfather. I think it's more like, okay, we need to solve this mystery, because it was in his great-grandfather's will.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I must have missed that part. Because, like, it felt like, it felt more like the ghost had to stop haunting it before he could actually own it. And, I mean, again, that's still kind of weird, because it's like, why would they need to prove what happened to Dewey exactly? Because you would think that after, like, what happened and stuff, he would be declared legally dead, at least within, like, a year or so. So, whatever was supposed to be his would go to his next of kin anyway. So, again, it's just kind of a weird thing. And I know it had to happen in order for Q's arc to happen, and get the big happily ever after at the end, but I still thought it was kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not weird. Having a stipulation in your will like that, but these are rich people. Rich people put a lot of weird stipulations in their wills. I'm fully believing that, like, this rich old man, his son dies, like, you find out what's happening. I'm not giving you a set, like, something like that.
That's just petty. It's like, why are you punishing his descendants for something out of their control? Like, that's just stupid.
Yeah. Alright, let's move on to our main characters. Buzzy Crocker, played by Steve Guttenberg, who, as I have said, you might remember from, Cocoon, Short Circuit, Police Academy, Three Men and a Baby. He's been in a lot of stuff. And here's where I have to talk about... Here's where I have to talk about the history behind this recording, because when we started thinking about what we wanted to do, we announced this on our Disney Debate fan page. And one of our fans, who's been with us for the longest time, Nicole, was like, hey, I want to give something back to the show. A family friend knows Steve Guttenberg, and has actually stayed in contact with him. We could possibly, see, hey, let's see if we can get in touch. And I did ask Nicole if it was okay if we talked about this, and she said, yeah. She didn't want any credit. She's just happy to give back to the show. But like, I have to really thank her, because not only did we get the opportunity to at least talk to him, we sent an email, and he politely declined, not because he didn't want to be a part of the show, but he said that he was too busy, and that's understandable, But
too busy meeting with the stonecutters.
yeah, stonecutters. Apparently, he knows about that joke. But like, one thing that I never thought would happen in the history of the show. We've been doing this for 15 years at this point. 15 years. And I never thought, oh, hey, we might have an opportunity to talk to somebody who was in the picture that we're talking about. And so just to have that opportunity to maybe have that chance, thank you, Nicole. With that being said, I think Steve Guttenberg did a great job in this role. Fantastic. I would have, like, if he's not busy in the future, I would like to have him on. And I think also Kirsten Dunst does great in this. And, like, it's baby Kirsten Dunst, but you can still see a little bit of the Spider-Man 3 in her when she starts getting angry, because, you know, she played Mary Jane Watson in Spider-Man. She played a lot of stuff, but I think, like, what you most remember her for is, like, that fiery anger, and she brings something different to this role where she's all fun and games, and she's the voice of reason for her uncle. And Steve Guttenberg does a great job of bringing Buzzy Crocker, a character who, if anyone else played it, I think I wouldn't like this, because I've seen Bill Murray, I've seen Groundhog Day, I've seen Ghostbusters and a few other things, and while I liked Bill Murray in Ghostbusters, you never really bought that he was a good person in a lot of these roles, and it took a lot to bring him back from this asshole role. But Steve really brings the heart to it. He's like a kid at heart. He brings this lighthearted nature, and while a large portion of what makes this film what it is this cast, like the ensemble, and even, you know, Kirsten, I think Steve Guttenberg really brings this childlike heart to it, where, like, he's lost his will to be a journalist. He doesn't believe in anything anymore, but it's the people around him that bring him out of his shell. And he has assholeish tendencies, but over the course of the film, you see that he really cares about these ghosts, and he cares about his niece. And I think Steve really makes this role. I think Kirsten makes this role. What do you think, Kat?
Oh yeah, definitely, for certain. The two have really great chemistry as uncle and niece, for certain, because he kind of comes off as, like, a kid who's, like, making their first movie for the first time, you know, who makes, like, those amateur films with, like, the rubber masks and the cheesy effects and everything, and his niece is into it as well. So you see that he's not just doing this for work, they're genuinely having fun with it. And while yes, he's ultimately out for a paycheck, he considers it a good time that he's having as well. But you could tell that there is an underlying sadness with him, that he does want to do actual journalistic work. It's just that he needs to get back in the limelight and prove himself. Yes, he is definitely an asshole in this, and that kind of is, like, par for the goal with Steve Guttenberg characters. They usually start off selfish and everything, then they go through sort of an arc, and then they become better people by the end of the movie, so that's really nothing new there. And there are times where, like, they said, particularly where he's trying to appeal to Jill to get his fake stories published, that's where he gets kind of annoying, and then when he's hitting on Claire, he gets into, like, creeper territory a little bit. So there are times where he is not that likable, and it's a little hard to root for him, because you know he's ultimately in it for the money. He's not realizing that, you know, these 5 people are basically doomed in limbo until something is done about it. But by the end of it, you know, he does, you know, almost sacrifice himself to save his niece and to help the ghosts. So, you know, he's ultimately a good character by the end, and you're happy that when he finally, you know, gets back on top, he publishes the story solving the mystery about the ghost and everything, and he helps out everyone around him. So in that regards, he is a compelling character to watch. You know, I think he does a good job in that regards, and yes, there are some parts of his personality that are less desirable, but he could have been done much worse, and we've seen characters like him done so much worse.
Groundhog Day. And what did you think of Kirsten?
As for Kirsten Dunst, like, funny enough, like, it's so weird because, you know, with child stars, it's always hit or miss, and, like, particularly, like, when we think of bad child actors, you know, we think of, like, the character Arliss, like, being the most annoying and everything. Kirsten doesn't have that problem. Like, her character as Anna, like I said, she has a lot, clearly is having a lot of fun with this. She gets to dress up in costume. She's exploring, like, this haunted place with her uncle. She's having a good time, but at the same time, she also has moral character to her, because once she realizes that these ghosts are in genuine need of help, she's all on board. She wants to help them. And, like, she even chastises her uncle for trying to back out on helping them. And I will say, though, I do question, like, some of her decisions, because, like, she comes across Abigail chanting that spell to doom them, and rather than stop her, like, mid-hex, she kind of waits for her to finish before saying, hey, you can't do that. It's like, dude, a little late there.
Hey, you can't come in here.
And also when she discovers that, you know, they're about to be doomed once the elevator starts working, instead of, you know, standing outside the entrance saying, quick, come get off the elevator, she goes onto it herself. And I get they had to do that to up the stakes, because, you know, not only will the ghost be doomed to hell, but she'll be doomed with them. Or worse, she'll be condemned to limbo because, you know, they didn't have anything of hers. Abigail didn't have anything of hers to, like, hex her into the underworld. So she definitely ups the stakes. It's just, you know, that whole setup was just kind of weird to me. Because it's like, you didn't have to go in the elevator. They're ghosts. They could have just phased through the wall. But like I said, she's a kid, and kids, you know, aren't the smartest. But like I said, in terms of being a child actor, especially in a Disney film, I thought she's among the better we've seen so far.
Doug, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Buzzy is this, at least in the beginning, is very, very cliche. Just, you have seen this character so many times before, and it's really grating. But as the movie goes on, and the other, you know, he's interacting with all the other characters, and he's really getting into things, his character does improve. I mean, it is nice to see the enthusiasm that he has for everything, even despite, you know, his backstory, you know, kind of killing things for him, and, you know, him being presented with the dilemma of, oh, do I chase the money, or do I actually help out? Granted, you know all along what's going to happen, but yeah, like I said, I think ultimately he is the weakest character of everybody, but I think mainly because he's kind of our avatar, our you know, insert, so that we can kind of understand. And you'd think that would be what you call Kirsten Dunst, but I don't think that, you know, really fits her character. She's kind of the lackey, but she's very enthusiastic to, you know, hang out with her uncle and take part in all the stories and pictures that he's doing. So she kind of is her own character. She's not some insert for us to, you know, see things. And of course, like I said, she's probably maybe a little more, you know, inquisitive into what's going on than her uncle is at times. But yeah, I mean, it is fun to watch her. You know, I that's all I can really say. You know, there's not really enough for both of these characters as the main characters, because I think, as I said, it's really the ensemble as a whole that, you know, motivates them and gets them to grow, and, you know, is there to help with Steve Guttenberg and Kirsten Dunst's acting performances. So yeah, I mean, ensemble piece is definitely what I'm getting at.
I can see that. I just think all of them bring their A material, and while some of it is very cliche, these actors make it. These actors make it for me. I think, you know, had these actors been any, like, worse, had Kirsten not been in the role, I think I would be singing a different tune, but they elevate this. And yeah, it's a TV movie. It's not the best thing in the world, but this, like Almost Angels, to me, is a hidden gem. This is something that you should get and put on every Halloween. And it's a shame because on Disney Plus, We have Don't Look Under the Bed. We have all the Halloween towns, including Halloween Town High and Return to Halloween Town, the worst ones. You thought Halloween Town was cheesy. My God, I hate Halloween Town High. Kat, you want to know how, you know how you said, oh, it's... say that again?
So I do not look forward to that based on what you're saying.
Kat, I want to paint a picture for you for Halloween Town High. You know how you said, oh, it looks like they put Halloween decorations everywhere? They bring the monsters into the real world, and 95% of the film is regular kids. Like, monsters dressed as regular kids interacting with normal people. It's barely about Halloween Town.
Oh god, this is Zombie High. Ugh, great.
Yeah. So, like, I love Halloween Town 1 and 2, but, like, yeah. But yeah, we have all of these on Disney Plus, but we don't have Tower of Terror. So go out, check it out.
Oh, shit.
Check out this movie. It has problems, but this is a hidden gem. This is something that you should have in your collection. Kat, final thoughts.
Yeah, like we've been saying, this definitely is an underrated Halloween classic. This should be shown more on TV. It should be released on DVD. It should be more readily available for people to watch. It's like, yes, it's a made-for-TV movie. It's the budget's not great. The effects are not great. But the people who are making it, the people who act in it, they're giving it their all. Like, this is a pioneering film that started, the Disney-based ride movies. And yes, most of those movies are crap. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Most of them are very bad. But that doesn't mean that this film should be penalized for it. I mean, we got Pirates of the Caribbean because of this movie. It set up, all this lore around the Tower of Terror. It's like, yes, we had that nice story at the beginning of the ride just to set the scene, but this adds so much to it. Such depth, such complexity. So, in that regards, like, it definitely deserves the limelight. It deserves to be acknowledged. Like, it should be shown more, especially at Hollywood Studios, out, like, at the ride itself. And the fact that they changed it, in California to the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, and I get why, because of money and because not that many people know the Twilight Zone anymore, but still, the ride itself is insanely popular, and the movie associated should be as well. So yeah, if you guys are able to, if you're able to either see it on YouTube in its entirety, if you're able to get a hold of the DVD on Amazon or eBay, or even just the 4-piece collection we mentioned that includes it, just get your hands on this movie and watch it. Give it the acknowledgement it deserves.
And Doug.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely an underrated movie. Deserves more than just be included on some 4, DVD set that just barely, has ties together, if only, because they're all rides. Definitely in some better packaging. Should it, at the very least, get its own, like, bare bones DVD or Blu-ray release. Definitely needs to be on, a streaming service. Even if it's like you have to pay a little extra for it, fine. But, it's something that would definitely be a good thing to have in your collection.
All right, with that being said, I just want to say, in my opinion, this is the second best movie based on a ride. And I'm talking Pirates of the Caribbean 1 is at the top, and then this is underneath it. I think 2 is good, but it has its problems. 3 is where things go downhill. So when we're talking that, but in terms of actual, like, using the ride as the set, most of it was filmed at the ride. This, to me, is the ride movie with the most connection to the ride. This is the film that really sells the ride, and while some people might disagree because it doesn't have anything to do with the Twilight Zone, I think this is right up there. I think this is great. All right. Well, with that said, happy Halloween, everyone. We spent extra time just to make sure this was good for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Next time we go back to our regular stuff. Unfortunately, it's another one we have to re-record. It's becoming a trend. We have ghosts in our technology. I'm sorry. This is
we'll
my fault.
We'll try to exercise them as soon as possible. We'll try not to make this a habit.
Yeah. Next time we're re-recording The Legend of Lobo. And we're not looking forward to it because that one was not a good movie.
Thankfully, we have the Christmas special after that to look forward to.
With that being said, I am Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of ghost buns, infecting your technology.
I'm Kat McBerry.
I'm Doug McBerry, and I'm wearing a pussy pink bathrobe from another dimension. And
we're just here to say you can find hidden gems in the weirdest places. And man, we've had 2 back-to-back, so now it's time for some shit, I guess. We will get to some really good Disney movies soon. Eventually, we'll get to Mary Poppins, but we have a few movies before that. Have a good one, everyone.